Welcome to the British and Irish Eagles podcast, and we are back with a bang. I am dancing in my chair to the intro music. We've been away for 3 or 4 weeks. A lot has been going on in the world of the Eagles. A lot of vacation time, a lot of rumor mill time, but no real proper news going on. The Eagles are back next Tuesday into the NovaCare Center. And what better way to kick off the proper preseason than to have friend of the podcast, Eagles assistant coach and running back coach, Jemal Singleton. Welcome back to the podcast, my man. How are you?
All right, man. I'm awesome. This is what I do know. Obviously, because I did this once last year, you guys invited me back again this year. We must have had a pretty good time last time. So I think we're going to maybe try and raise the notch. I'm seeing all these new graphics. The British Irish podcast is on a whole nother level. I think Liam mentioned you guys are flexing now. You got all this neat, fancy stuff. So excited to be here.
We got some cool guests lined up for the year. We got some cool events lined up, and we got a bit of a StreamYard action going on. We're not live tonight, but we will be live during the season as well. We absolutely did have a fantastic podcast last year. I think it was the highest viewed and listened to podcast of the year, Coach. So why don't you go and take a little flex there for yourself?
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into the agenda today, it would be rude of me not to introduce my two illustrious co-hosts. We have lovely Eagles attire and memorabilia in the background, ready for the season. Phil, I'll bring you in, sir. How the devil are you?
Yeah, I've been absolutely buzzing coming into this podcast this week. Like we've already touched on, we had such a blast. I think you were down staying with me. It was before we watched some cricket last year. It was like hottest day of the year.
Barbecue, T-bone steak. Coach was annoyed he didn't get any.
Some red wine. Coach was annoyed, and then we spent about 2 hours just talking football and eventually picking Coach's new football team for UK fan, which we'll get into in a little bit. But it's been, I'm still waiting to start my job. So I've just been chilling, relaxing, doing a bit of research, getting ready for this pod.
Nice. I love it. I appreciate that research as well. Mick the Beard, you've been on the boat today.
Yeah, boy.
Racing back. I think you said you'd smoke on your heels when you got on the podcast a few minutes ago. How are you?
Yeah, racing back to get on this podcast. I couldn't miss this one. Come on. Got the man of the hour with us, Coach Singleton. So definitely one that I couldn't miss. But it's been a bit of a wild off-season, hasn't it? It's been a bit quiet, but we had a bit of a wild time in Glasgow a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, Liam?
Oh, yeah, God.
When we met for the first time. No, I missed the last one with Natalie, so this is probably the first time I've spoke to you since then, actually.
Yeah, Coach.
We were a bit worse for wear that night.
Oh,
It was on a school night. We had far too many beers, and Liam spanked me at pool. I'm man enough to admit that I am terrible at pool. Terrible. And even worse, 10 beers down.
No, you let him win, Mick. We all know Liam's competitive spirit. He throws his toys out. We know you did the right thing, the just thing.
It was a good night, and poor Mick had to go to work the next day, whereas I was able to swan into an Italian cafe at 11 o'clock, get myself a little carbonara for lunch, and jump on the next flight back down to Dublin. So it was a really, really good time. But listen, without any further ado, I just want to introduce the agenda for today. We got a few little segments to get through with Coach. We're going to have a bit of fun like we did last year. That's some serious questions thrown in there. You could choose not to answer them, Coach. Absolutely don't mind whatsoever. We got some general questions in there, some questions about Coach and what you've been up to. Obviously, we're going to talk about Nottingham Forest, the team that you chose last season as your team. Here he is, though. The cap is there. The cap is there. And what that was like for you, because what a season it was to start supporting Nottingham Forest back in the Premier League. We got a game called Rebuilding Civilisation. I won't say any more because that is Phil's brainchild, so I'll let him introduce that later. Keep you all in anticipation. Running back in general is quite a hot topic right now. It's hard to get away from it in the media. So we got a question around that and your thoughts on it, Coach, and then just in general, like last season and how everything went. And there's quite a lot of specific questions that we've got lined up here around the kind of things you do and train and look at. So some really insightful questions, and I'm saying that not bigging myself up because they were put together by Mick and Phil. So thank you to the both of you. And we got some fun questions to talk about as well, about our trip coming up in November, where we're going to take between 20 to 30 Eagles fans from the UK over to Philadelphia for the VIP trip of a lifetime. And we'll talk through that. And hey, maybe we'll be able to see you at the NovaCare Center one of those days, Coach. See if we can make that happen. And then we'll talk to you about a couple of our promotions we got going on, because we brought you a care package last year.
Yeah.
And, I think you can see an improved care package coming this year, my friend.
We'll talk about.
That's the only reason he does the podcast.
Yeah,
it's just so he can get his finger of fudge in, so he can get his coffee crisp, his double decker.
Exactly it. I'm the cheapest guest you'll ever have. Just give him sweets. That's it.
This is it. Well, listen. First question: How was your care package last year, Coach? Did you enjoy it? The family enjoy it?
Oh, it was great. It was great. Although I almost had to disown my daughter for a little while. She said she didn't really like tea, so struggled with that. She didn't really. I don't think I put enough sugar in it for her, but no, it was awesome. It takes me back. Just the sweets and the candy and all that stuff. And I appreciated you guys putting that together and sending it out this way, and had a lot of good stuff. Some things I didn't have on my list, so it was a lot of fun doing that. And I'm kind of excited about this next one, if I'm being honest.
We're gonna go to town. What you saw last year, you can expect an upgrade in that, and not only an upgrade in sweets and confectionery and tea and stuff. I have to shout out to my fiance. We get married in 8 weeks' time now, and she actually did help pull together that package that we sent over. So shout out to Katie for the help on that. But we'll probably also have another special thing to send you over, because I touched on it a little bit earlier. Those listening to the podcast know we've got a premium partnership with Loch Lomond Whiskies, which is a Scottish whiskey distillery, and they're one of the top 5 fastest selling whiskies in the world. They're currently sponsoring the Open, the Golf Open in the UK right now, and we've got a special British and Irish Eagles whiskey, which has your name on it, Coach. So we're gonna get over to you as well.
So that's way cool. They go well with my sweets.
Yeah, you go. There you go. Good stuff. Listen. So Jemal, 5 weeks of vacation now. You're ready to get back into the building, but tell us what it's like for you. I know because follow you on Instagram and we chat every now and again. But an insight into your life when the football season ends and family time starts. What's the summer been like for you, my man?
It's crazy, because during the season, the amount of time you actually spend with your family is pretty slim. I'll spend as much time with my players and the coaches than I will with my daughter. So when we get that big break in the summer, it's really that. It's like, hey, let's get out, let's connect. And we always go on a big trip. I like to laugh as I go from being an NFL coach to a rodeo dad, and my daughter's big into horses and rides, and she does both disciplines, hunter jumper, and rides English as well as rodeo. But
she's pretty good, right?
She's pretty good. She gets it from her mama. I can't get that. Her mom grew up the same way. So small Texas girl that grew up riding horses in that part. So we do kind of a trip. We head down. First thing, I work a Christian-based football camp down in Oklahoma. Do that for a few days. Then we jump over to Colorado Springs, where the Air Force Academy is, where I went to school. So we catch up with some friends, and I go by my alma mater and take my daughter and tell her how good I was as a player. And the stories get better every year. Yeah. And then we head out to Wyoming with some family and spend some time out there. So really just kind of head out and just decompress, everything from riding horses to fishing to just hanging out to fires by the river. So it's really, for us, like I say, it's my woosah before the season starts. And it's just catch breath, catch up with the family, spend a little extra time, and then just really get ready and recharge to start the next run.
It sounds absolutely magical. I don't know about you guys, like sitting by the fire, marshmallows on the pit, bit of fish maybe going if we catch it a day. Yeah. I love that. Phil, you ever been on a horseback before?
Actually not. I've been on a donkey on Blackpool Beach before, but that's about it.
Mick, you been on any Shetland ponies?
No. I would crush a Shetland pony into a fine paste with my weight just now, so I think it's best for.
I also haven't been on a horse, and I'm as probably the Irishman on this podcast. You would think that maybe I'm the one who perhaps should have been, and I don't know whether I've told you guys in this podcast, but when I was about 15, 16, just before I did my A levels, so like the exams, you remember what A levels are, Jemal? Like the exams, it's like the end of high school before college.
Yeah, the next level. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was a bit naughty when I was in school. I was the one who had the parent-teacher meetings, which was Liam can do whatever he wants, but he won't because he's a cheeky brat and he's going to get away with stuff, right? My mom would come home crying, like, when are you ever going to have a nice parent-teacher meeting? And my vice principal would said to me, because I was tiny, I'm not that tall now, I'm 5'9", but I was so small when I was at school. I was smaller than girls who were like 2 years younger than me. I was so small, fast, but small. And he said, Liam, the only thing you're ever going to amount to in life is a jockey. I was like, what an inspirational thing for the vice principal of a school to tell a young boy going into life. And
They're pretty well paid, aren't they?
I think you'd have to be pretty
as a job. I mean, if you can be a jockey, it's not a bad career.
I think Frankie Dettori does pretty well. Yeah.
Well, I do have to say this, and a little crazy, the timing of it. You know, I knew we were having this podcast. So today I had, me personally, my very first English writing lesson.
There you go.
So we've got
this wasn't planned.
So it was. I had on tight pants and boots, helmet. So I may have to put something out social, let you guys see this big old. I'm not sure too many British writers are as thick and chunky as this man is right here, but that was part of it. So I'm on a whole British English flair right now, so I'm feeling good.
I love that. I was toying earlier on with doing a game in this podcast, and I didn't put it in. Maybe we can chat through later of saying you chose your football team last year. What English British sport do you not currently follow that isn't soccer, like cricket or netball, or is netball English? I'm not sure. But maybe if you're starring English horse riding, it could be polo.
Might be tough to keep up with that one.
There's not much live streaming of that going on around the world.
No.
Anyway, I digress. So none of us have been on horseback. Maybe we need to remedy that at some point. Mick and Phil do a little podcast special.
No, thanks.
After a horse now.
I'm fine.
All right. Mick, pass it over to you to talk to Coach about the Super Bowl, my friend.
Oh, okay. It hurts us all, Coach. It hurts us all to talk about the Super Bowl, but we must do it. It's cathartic. There's a process that all Eagles fans are going through this entire off-season. The off-season's felt a little bit shorter because we made it so far. When we spoke to you last year, we never thought we would get as far as that. Obviously, put your hand down. You did not think we were going to Super Bowl.
I said 14 wins. All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's
not the Super Bowl.
That's
all
not
right.
Super Bowl.
I'll shut
anyway, but just give us your overall thoughts, about the Super Bowl experience. Obviously we didn't get the result we wanted, but just talk us through the emotions of it.
You said it. I mean, emotions are definitely that. You look at in a career, right? That's kind of, for me as a coach, that's the pinnacle of coaching, right? Is getting a chance to get to that game. So you never know if it ever happens. There's plenty of guys that have never set foot in a Super Bowl game before, but to get that close, to be there, and for it to kind of go down the way it did is something that really stings. You're like, it was there. It was like, it's right in your hand. And I know the fan, I mean, believe me, fans paying, coaches paying. I couldn't watch the TV copy of the game for like 3 months. Like, it took me a while to get back, because again, it's one of those deals. It's like, man, you're like there, but the goal has never been to make it to a Super Bowl. Nobody want to say, hey man, I'm a Super Bowl runner up. That's not in the cards. You wanted to be a Super Bowl champion. And the only way to be a Super Bowl champion is to play in the Super Bowl and win. Well, there's two pieces of that. You can't just play in it. You have to win. So that's tough. And that's going to stick. And really, that's one of the motivations going into the following season is last year doesn't matter anymore at this point. And really, this will probably be the last time I talk about the Super Bowl or anything, because I'm moved on. Like, this is, as soon as I walk into the office on Sunday, it's a new year. How do we get to that spot? If we repeat just what we did the previous year, we're not getting there. It's everything's changed. We have different players. We have different teams. You have a different schedule. We have different coaches. So every single season is its own individual snapshot. So it's like I have to be focused on that and that only. And there's going to be different struggles and different adversity that we face. It's not going to be the same. We do have some experience now of, okay, getting to the pinnacle and that. So what do we have to do to get? Well, we got to be better than we were last year. And obviously we were pretty dang good last year. It was a fun ride. We won a lot of games, but as a coach, we didn't win the one. Yeah. And I know this is going to be one of those scenarios where maybe after I'm done coaching, I'll look back on this year and really look at it and say, man, the number of records. We won 14 games, franchise record. I mean, there's just so many things. Like every week, it felt like a different type of record was being broken by us, whether it was our organization or NFL. And you're looking at both offense and defense and all those things. So it was a fun year. I mean, you talk about the ride and people ask me, oh man, how was that playoff? The link for the NFC playoff is like unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. And I've coached in some big stadiums in college with the Alabamas and the Tennessees and the LSUs. And I've been to what I thought was the most vibrant environment for a football game. He ain't come close. Yeah. Like I'm addicted now. Like I'm addicted to this. I want that. And I want a lot of that, as much of that as I could possibly get, because it was an unbelievable year up until that point. And that's part of it. Okay, we did some great things. How do we do that? How do we adjust? How do we use the personnel we have now to try and create the exact same thing? And it doesn't have to be the same way. It's not going to be the same way. You know, we won 14 games. That was a whole lot. But maybe we have to win 15, or maybe we have to win 10 and get to the playoffs, and it's a different path. So that's a great thing about this sport, and any sport really for that. Each season is its own. So we'll look back, take our lessons learned from this year, lick those wounds, bandage up those deep cuts, and go to that next season knowing that, hey, if I'm still focusing on what happened last year, I'm not focusing on what's happening tomorrow and today, then we'll definitely be in bad shape. So like I said, it might be the last time I think about this stuff because I got my plate's full. And I can't be worried about the scraps from last year. I got a full plate that we need to make sure that we handle. And who knows? Let's try and do it again.
Just a couple of things before I pass over to Phil, just on that. Harry Roseman, comes out and Sirianni as well in the press. Like, if you're not already thinking about doing things differently for the next year and trying to replicate another team who's just won, like the Chiefs, then you're already a year behind everyone else. You need to be looking forward. The second just point on that, the leadership within the organization. Forget about the new DC and OC. Because one of them is an internal hire, and one of them is coming in highly recommended, right? But you look at Howie Roseman, you look at Jeffrey Lurie, you look at Nick Sirianni, you look at Jalen Hurts as those four fairly integral pieces of leadership of a team, management, and organization perspective. I have a lot of faith in that moving into next year, alongside incredible coaches within positional groups, yourself, Jeff Stoutland, for example. The core, while there might be player change, the core and the fabric and the methodology and the same core that led a successful team last year is still there. So we, personally, it's me. Liam's confident. What a shock, right? Yeah. I'm pretty confident in that we've kept those core pieces together, and we can make a good run at it last year. And also, the New York Giants now don't only just have a dad, but they've got a mom too. So there's that to factor in as well.
Yeah. Congratulations to Boston.
Congratulations to Boston.
For the context.
Bit of context. Congratulations to Boston.
Yeah. Well, I'll say you hit on it there too, but I think a piece that's as important, if not the most important piece, is it's great. I mean, the leadership, you got to have that. And we do. We have, I think, the best owner in the NFL. I don't say that just because I'm here. I say that because of the other places I've been. Mr. Lurie is a guy that I've worked for a long, long, long time. Then you got Howie Roseman. I said it before. I'm a huge Howie Roseman fan. I mean, I don't care. You talk about one draft pick that wasn't good. could care less about that. Just the things that he does year in and year out, things he's done in my room alone, is that he's playing at another level. I love his philosophy with how he wants to build a team personnel wise, and that helps. And then Nick can be the best. He's the best head coach for Philly. I think if he's not Philly, I don't know what is. I mean, the man, he's half crazy. I think we can all agree on that. Yep. And that's what makes it. He's passionate. He loves it. He's exciting. He's going to fist bump. He's going to jump. He's going to be on TV. Something's going to go viral because of his excitement level. And that's good. But even with all that, the biggest piece is that locker room. And you mentioned Jalen Hurts. But I think you looked at, now you got to talk about Jason Kelce. You got to talk about Lane Johnson. Jordan Mailata is coming into his own now. You know, you talk about a whole group. Then you look at the defensive side of the ball. Fletcher Cox came back. Darius Slay is back. Bradbury is back. And you've got all these player pieces. I think as a coach, that's one thing you know. You have great coaching and good players, you'd probably be good. But if you have great coaching and great players, and that environment in the locker room runs itself, and you got guys disciplining themselves, checking each other, being accountable to each other, that's when you know. Those have always been the good teams. When the locker room runs itself, those are good teams because those are the guys that are on the field playing. So that core piece for me, it was huge last year. It's going to be even bigger this year, but there's a bunch of those guys that came back. Like me, I know you finish the year and after a Super Bowl, most things happen. It's like this guy's gone. And we have a uncanny ability as coaches and players to sometimes think, well, we're the reason why. I mean, it was because of me that we did this. So guys leave and go to the client. They want more money and they go, and it's just the nature of the business. But to see the core unit of guys that came back. Some came back for less money. Some came back instead of retiring. Some wanted really bad to be here. And it's like, that's the culture. That's culture that Nick has built, culture that Howie's helped them build. Mr. Lorian allows in the building that's the piece. Like that will always be the generator. That's the core of what we do. Those players, that locker room, and we match their intensity as much as we can. We got a chance to do some good things. So totally agree with all that, but those guys in that locker room, man, they're the ones that make that machine go.
Don't forget those boys. And if you ever need someone to come in and do an inspirational speech, Mick is a fantastic lyricalist and emotive speaker. So I'm sure Mick would love to come along and do that, right, Mick?
Absolutely.
I don't have anything from Kelce at the podium with these numbers sit on. I mean, nothing on that.
You might need a translator as well, but
that's true.
But that leads us nicely into the follow-up question. But just before, you mentioned something, obviously how Mailata's come into his own, and it just reminded me, because the geek that I am, I listened to last year's podcast just to make sure there was any little tidbits of information there. And I think there was one little point.
Well, you are jobless, Phil, so it's all right.
Thanks. Cheers, man. Was about Mailata, and I think we were all crying out for him. We're saying, like, please use him as a running back. And please get him that touchdown. And I think your answer was along the lines of maybe we'll use him as a fullback and we'll hide Boston Scott just behind him. So we're just a little bit disappointed that didn't happen this season. But forgive me on this occasion. But maybe this season, now he's coming into his own. Maybe we can give him that little bit of extra information, coach. Maybe we can get that in the playbook.
But it's going to be so hard because we're the greatest team in the history of the NFL ever to run the quarterback sneak. I mean, unless he's taking the snap from the center, I don't know. I mean, the combination we've got with Jalen and the combination with Kelce and the
so
fact
good they tried to ban it.
Other teams wanted to cancel it. They wanted to
just imagine that the headlines in NFL.com: Coach Singleton, game changer, using his offensive tackle, his guards, running back, scoring touchdown. What's not to like?
Absolutely. And I tell you,
anyway,
we talked last that he's a pretty nifty big guy.
You're seeing a tape, right? In the Australia rules, right?
Crazy.
Rugby.
Yeah. Oh, so
hang on, Phil. There's actually a follow-up question that I want to ask off the back of that. That's okay before you get onto that one.
Sure,
because you talked specifically about the Jalen Hurts sneak and how effective that was. And I put a question in earlier. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I wanted to understand how much of an impact you had in that. So when you're running a quarterback sneak, it's technically a rushing play. Did that idea and the schematics behind how to maneuver the offensive line come from you, come from Stoutland, come from Steichen, Sirian, an amalgamation of all 4 or 3? Like, how much of an impact or an influence did you have on that? And how often did you have to like change that as the games went on when teams tried to figure out little holes and gaps you were trying to block?
That's the one thing about that play. I mean, just historically, when you look at the stats of conversion rates for QB sneaks, they're pretty high. I mean, usually when you're doing it, it's a short yardage, so there's a chance. So first off, it's a good football play. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a very statistically smart, sound football play that results in a lot of good things happening. So we kind of had it, but it goes back. I think you look at Jalen Hurts. Like, I've been on teams, other guys have been teams. There's certain teams that can't run QB sneaks. It just is. The guy's just not capable. He's not strong enough, doesn't have a feel for it. And it can be different. I mean, I hate to say the name, but, Tom Brady was a really good QB sneak guy. There's nothing really in Tom Brady that makes you think, oh, he should be great. Whereas with Jalen, well, there's a social media guy that makes the joke, I squat 600, because Jalen has videos squatting 600 pounds. So you got him. You've got one of the smartest players in football right in front of him, and that's in Jason Kelce. And then you talk about just the strength and power that we have internally at our guards at Landon Dickinson, right? And then just what goes on. And then even the backs getting involved in our rugby scrum. I mean, it is what it is. We're taking advantage of the rules that are put in place. So this is something that really, it was a piece of everybody. Stoutland in the run game, a couple guys, our guy, Jason Michael, our tight ends coach, is a big part of that. And really it became kind of cool. It was like, well, how can we run QB sneak this week? And those guys would come up and people would come up with ideas and different formations and different movements. And it was never the same thing. Everyone knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But it was never the same thing. So it was a huge piece. I mean, you talk about the analytics of it, check. That was a really good part. Basically the schematics of it, check, good part. The physical capability of the players we have running the play, check, we have that. And it's what became pretty interesting was what teams would try to do to stop it, or, if you're being honest, what teams just said, okay, they just conceded. And that's the part of it. And you mentioned earlier, it's like, we're trying to get better for next year. So it's like, well, how can we make this play that was extremely successful better? And
you put Jordan Mailata in there.
That's it. Why did I think of that?
The only thing about putting, sorry, Phil, I will stop speaking in a second. Yeah. The only thing about putting Jordan Mailata in there, Jalen Mailata, well, that will be a tandem. Is not everyone's going to be able to push Jordan Mailata as well as they're going to be able to push Jalen Hurts. Sorry, Phil, you've been trying to ask this question for half an hour now. Go ahead.
No, I've just got another interjecting question as well. It's more a case of obviously the rule changes that were discussed at the NFL owners meeting. How relieved were you? How was relieved with the organization that obviously the QB sneak wasn't taken off the table and you've still got that weapon in your arsenal?
Yeah, it was a good piece. And it was interesting. There was if I'm being honest, there was probably a little bit of pride in the building that we felt like we are changing the NFL. The NFL is changing or trying to change. Our other teams are trying to change what has happened because of what we did. We took well within the rules, well within the boundaries of play, and we did something that people couldn't stand and didn't want to have to defend. So it was pretty cool. And we were excited. I mean, we were said, okay, what were the rules? What things might change? How can we incorporate it? So just like anything, we've got to be flexible and adjust any kind of rule change that comes up. And that was one that we were preparing, that if it was taken away, all right, how would we adjust for some of our short yardage stuff? But on behold, it wasn't. But just like we're trying to get better at that, every defense in the NFL is going to be working to get better and find what may be a weakness or something that they can exploit as they kind of work it. So that's part of the chess match that we go for such a simple kind of play. There's a lot of intricacies to it that you really don't see. And I'm not going to tell you all of
them. Yeah, no, great. I mean, that's exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think it's good to hear that that's kind of what you want to hear from someone inside the organization, is that what would you do if they took away what was probably arguably your most valuable weapon throughout the course of the season, those key moments. I would just find something else to beat him with. It's just like, that's the perfect response. I love that. But finally, I'm going to get onto the actual question that I was planning to ask you, which is probably going to seem a bit of an anticlimax now. But obviously, we spoke to you last year before the season, about this time, a bit earlier, in fact. So the question is, in terms of how the organisation feels, how you feel in your role, the difference in, it's kind of linked to the previous questions, but how different does your role feel now? How do you feel now, 1 year on, going into your season after the Super Bowl appearance? Do things still feel the same? Does it feel like nothing's changed, or do you kind of have this plateau that you're sort of, or this platform that you've now elevated yourselves to, and now you've got some of the different sort of aims and goals to go into, or do they just feel the same?
No, I think there's a process. I mean, there's a process every single year, and I don't want to sound too cliche, but that's it. I mean, it's truly okay. The next thing, and Nick talks about it. How can I get 1% better? Right. So it's every day. What can I do to get 1% better? And I've got to be looking at this climb that I'm making. And if I don't take that first step the correct way, no other steps matter. So it's really, you still go in, the same focus. Okay, we have to install the offense. There's players in the building that this is a new offense for now, right? This is new terminology. This is all that. So you always go back to square one, even with the 8th year guy that's been in the system and the 1st year guy. So it's making sure that you don't skip any steps in the teaching process of what you do offensively, that you don't skip any steps in how you prepare for each opponent, breaking it down. So it's just really you're, I don't know if hungrier is the way to say it, but we've tasted it, right? We tasted how good it could be, but we didn't get to eat the meal. So now it's okay. How do we do it? Well, we better start back at square one, because this is a new journey. And if we don't take that first step correctly, we're never going to get to where we want to go. So it's you're back, and part of it is you improve. Okay, my first step is different now than what it was 2 years ago, because of the things that I've learned these past 2 years, how to incorporate that and how to change some things. And then now I'm dealing with different personalities. I'm talking more specifically from my room. I have different faces in the room right now. Well, how do I connect with them in a way that allows me to coach them as hard as I possibly can to help them get to hopefully the best they can possibly be? And I have to build that relationship really quick. So there's no, well, man, we're great, we're rolling. You just roll up the work and roll the ball out and you go win. It's if
English sweets, just give them some English sweets and then you'll be.
That is. I did share with the guys last year, so I guess I better pull that off again. But I mean, the last 2 years have just shown that, you know what, we've got some good players, and I think we can do some things when we have the ball. We can do some things defending the football. There's a lot of that's going on, and we continue to build. So why not? Why not take it each step at a time and try to make the best season that we can possibly make?
Love that. Absolutely love that. Said like a true assistant head coach as well. Look at that. Mick, do you want to ask the? Do you want to go question 5 here? Socceroo.
Oh, okay. Let's switch it up a little bit then. We've got all this.
It's a bit of fun.
Let's talk about our own football, soccer. We'll put it in inverted commas. You've already flashed the hat on screen for those who are listening audio only. Coach pulled a Nottingham Forest cap out from nowhere, repping his colours for his new English Premier League team. How was it? How did you enjoy the Premier League season? Were you watching the games after, were you out at the pub? Did you have a few pints?
A bit early for that.
Drowning your sorrows for the Nottingham Forest team fighting relegation at the bottom of the Premier League.
Hey, it was never a doubt. Never a doubt. It was cool. It was, because for me, it was finally something, it was on. And there's a couple guys in the building that are, they love the Premier League too. So I was able to talk a little trash every now and then and watch it. Didn't get to catch as many games as I had hoped, but some Saturdays when I was in the office, if we're playing at home, I usually work. My Saturdays are a work day, kind of getting ahead on the next opponent. I could have it on the screen and it would be on. I was able to catch a few of those. A lot of the game, really, be honest, I kept up a lot of it just through the social media, through being able to watch highlights of the game, follow the scores, obviously the Forest account, and then also following some of the players just to kind of get a little bit of feel of that as I got into it. But it was fun. It really was. And just getting out to the end And again, people are like, oh, well, why do you choose them? I think we talked about last year. I've got family that live not too far away from the grounds, and so to me, there's a little bit of family tie to the team, and it was fun. It was kind of being a part of that, and I'm getting a little chilly in here. I need to put my scarf on for a quick second.
How much money have you spent on Nottingham Forest attire?
Can I tell you, this is when I knew I made the right decision. So after our pod last year, so there's a group of Nottingham Forest fans in New York, and reached out on social media. And although I love my Sweets care package, no matter, they sent me a Forest care package from the scarf to hats to stickers and all that. I was like, yep, okay, this is cool. This is way cool. So I'm excited a little bit more to kind of get even more involved in it and try to watch a few more games when I get a chance to, just being a little bit more aware of it. It gets tough. I mean, obviously I'm caught up in what we've got going on in the season, but I always keep up with the scores and get a chance to. But it was good. And I'm hoping that there'll be a time sometime where, get a chance to maybe come to a game and see a game at some point.
Well, I'm reckon we should make a little wager here. All right. We're talking about the, not so much of a wager, but like we're talking about the Eagles and we're talking about, tasting the meal but not quite being able to eat the meal, and running it back to try and go to the Super Bowl is incredibly hard after you make it to the Super Bowl, regardless if you win it or you make it to the Super Bowl. It's one of the hardest things to do in professional sports because of the change in personnel and everything. To get to a Super Bowl has to click so well to get there. There's luck involved as well as all the dedication and hard work. So we know how hard that is. But if the Eagles do win the Super Bowl this year, you get 5-6 weeks of vacation. I think you should treat yourself to a week in the UK because if they win in around the 12th of February, you've still got 2-3 months left of football going on, Premier League, Championship, the whole shebang. And I won't even need to source you a ticket because Nottingham Forest themselves will probably give you a ticket to the game coming over. And I know Anthony will definitely sort that out. He's a friend of the. He was trying to. He was the one on Twitter last year roping in everyone to comment on you to get to Nottingham. I think you need to have that one up there. Tell your guys, if we go to the Super Bowl, I'm going to go see Forest play.
Yeah, that would be my daughter. And my daughter has been hound. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and because obviously my mother was British, so England's kind of a part of my life and that, and she'll always say things every now and then. But she's been dying to go. She hasn't been over yet. I need to take her over too. That'd be a great trip to kind of set that up and go see some family, go see a game. So, hey, that sounds like pretty good. I don't like you said wager. I'm looking for where's the bad part in that. Usually you got to lose something. I'm all for that. So.
You get down and meet us at Passion Avenue in London. We can go get some Philly cheesesteaks and some PBRs. It'll be brilliant. So. Couple more questions on the Forest. You got a favorite player that you liked this year that you kept? I'm
gonna say the name wrong. I know it. Wanayi. Did I say that?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert in.
Nobody knows that. Okay, so it doesn't sound bad. I don't know how to pronounce it. But no, he came on. Just one of the guys I follow on social media is one of the players, and had a great run there at the end. Some amazing goals and that stuff. So just. I kind of follow those guys, and he was one that kind of stood out to me. And, the more I kind of watched and I was like, I kind of like how he plays. I kind of like how he handles himself. So that was kind of I guess I should learn how to pronounce his full name at some point.
Google pronunciation should help you there, Coach.
We've been butchering Eagles players' names for years. It's fine.
Yeah.
Halavalavatai. Did I get that right? Is that bad?
I still don't know. Zacchaeus? Is that how you pronounce Zacchaeus?
Alamai Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus?
Alamadi? Yeah.
Alamadi.
Yeah. So,
I think Coach Ariani was having trouble pronouncing his name as well at the podium. So
he just calls him OZ, didn't he? Oz.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, OZ, that's it.
You should, if you ever get a chance, obviously you get a chance to speak to him. If you're ever chatting to Mailata about anything like this, one of our fantasy leagues is named after Jordan Mailata and the Lion King, and it's called Hakuna Mailata. So yeah,
all right.
That name's on over there. There's a few good names. Mick, what other names have we got on there? Phil, you run them.
Yes. Well, we've got Penny Lane because they're named after Eagles players with music. So it's Penny Lane, Beatles track. Slay It Ain't So, the Weezer track. AJ Brownstone, the Guns N' Roses, Mr. Brownstone track, and there's one more. Mick, if you can remember, I could help you out. But yeah, so basically we've gone on along players like that. I'm trying to think of the other one now. But,
I'll try and find out. I'll try and find out.
But yeah, so that was a theme that we went with this year, and we're trying to think of new ones. Might have to think of one for Coach Singleton next year.
Yeah,
honoured in our football fantasy leagues. As to be,
I know I've made.
Yeah,
and you know you've made
that's the ultimate pinnacle of sport.
Forget your Super Bowls, buddy.
Having a pun is your name. That's it. That's all you need.
I
love it. Phil, should you play the game?
Yeah, let's break up the serious questions with a bit of fun. We haven't got a game where we can pick your UK soccer team this year. That game's been and gone. As much fun as we had with that. So I decided to come up with something. It was. I think we spent a good hour and 15 talking about teams, and then we got the suspense and the reveal video from Coach. Like
a lot of research went on, wasn't there? Like, a lot of research went on after that podcast.
So I hope the same level of application, which I'm no doubt it will be, will go into this game. It's basically like, as Liam alluded to, it's called Rebuilding Civilization. It's basically designed around you because you're the only guest that we've ever been able to speak to that has the first-hand knowledge of Eagles players, personalities, their secondary hobbies, abilities. Well, no, I'm going with Coach Singleton's got just that next level.
I would say, yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so if you had to rebuild Civilization with 3 Eagles players based purely on stuff like their personalities, stuff that you know that they're good at in their hobbies, like stuff that they do that we might not know about. So if you were trying to rebuild Civilization, you've got 3 people to do it, because we could be here all night talking about the abilities and the attributes of Kelsey, whether he's good with a carpenter, good with a hammer, whether he can saw a building, we can build a log cabin or not. But so I'll give you well, maybe lumberjack sort of style things. But so I'll give you a quick example to give you time to sort of like rummage through your brain and figure out who you're going to pick. So I'd go for someone like obviously Jalen Hurts. You're going to have your mayor, your leader, the guy who's going to take the charge. Everyone's going to follow him into battle. He's got that. You die for him. You do anything for him. You just believe him. So he's naturally got to be that guy that you could pick as your leader. And then I might go for someone like Jordan Mailata, bit of left field. Everyone needs a bit of comic relief, a bit of music in their lives. Like, it's a serious business rebuilding Civilization, but you need to unwind. So have someone singing in the background, playing the ukulele. I don't know, stuff like that. So kind of gives you a kind of a feel for what I'm on. It's a bit of fun.
We said players and coaches.
Players and coaches, yeah. So it could be anybody within the organisation, I think, because you obviously know everybody. But it's a bit of fun. So if you had to rebuild Civilization with 3 people out of the Eagles organisation, who would they be, and why would you pick them?
Man, this is a little bit. You said this was going to be easy. Like this is.
Liam wanted to make it harder. Trust me.
No, I wanted to give you more options. I was going to say like 5, and we could give you like different like lines within like a government, and you could pick and choose each one.
This is crazy. I'm looking at how we're doing things. So I'll be honest. The first name that came to mind, the first person that came when you even started telling this, and it's going to sound maybe a little bit crazy why I'm picking him, is Fletcher Cox.
Oh, okay.
So Fletcher Cox has a huge ranch, hunts, right? So when we're talking about if it's me and him right now, I mean, I'm talking about a guy. He's going to know how to go fish. He fishes. He hunts.
Nice.
He rides motorcycles. I ride motorcycles. So there's a little common theme there. But
bro love going on. We like that.
So me and Fletcher Cox live in the same city here in South Jersey. But that'd be my first, because I want a guy that can hunt. Because if we're building Civilization, we didn't say anything about the animals, so it could be, we may have to hunt and live off the land and all that. So I want that guy. Plus, he's pretty good at rushing the quarterback, so that's always a good thing. Just
there's that. When I created this game, that's kind of exactly what I had in mind. I knew there was.
I went the wrong way, didn't I?
You need a hunter. You need someone to make sure that you're going to survive. And obviously, Carson Wentz is out of the building. He's off doing other things.
Well, different kind of hunting.
I don't know. Yeah, different kind of hunting. But I'm glad you completely got hit on the nose. Let's hear your next two people then.
So Fletch is definitely that guy that we'll pick up. Man, the next
Hunter and gatherer. I like
you
it.
say this is I kind of want I want a guy that's extremely smart, right? That can make some great decisions and moves. Maybe it's setting up our government. Maybe it's changing something. Maybe it's acquiring others. So I mean, I gotta go with my guy. I gotta go with Howie, right? I gotta go with he's been putting the pieces together. That's a guy that I want. If I'm rebuilding, give me that guy, especially on my team, right? And he's done a great job with that. So I think if we can incorporate it a little bit into acquiring talent, acquiring goods and services, I think Howie Roseman's definitely going to be one of those guys that I got to pull. I got to bring a guy that's smart and sharp and can help build things. We're rebuilding, so maybe that he's got a chance to do that. So I've got That's two extremes. I think
that's good.
Howie, right?
That's good.
So
Sorry, Phil. Go on.
I gotta find a third.
No, I think I froze for a second. I was just gonna say, like, so you've got your hunter gatherer, you got your guy who's gonna make sure you don't die because you're gonna eat, and you got a guy who's gonna drive you forward and be a leader. So it feels like an obvious area where you might need some help with, which is sort of like the homestead maybe side of things. I don't know. You seem like you've already got your third guy in mind. But,
no, I'm still kind of looking at what's that next piece that I really need. The one guy is no longer with us, unfortunately, but I'm thinking like I need somebody that you mentioned. It's good with his hands, can build, can construct some things. And I'm drawing a slight blank on guys in the building that I haven't heard of any carpenters.
Not the easiest transition is a carpentry to the NFL, really.
No, so it's not
plenty
really...
of guys that are good with their hands, though. I mean,
that's true.
got some great pass catchers and.
You know what?
What do you think of someone like Landon Dickerson, who was like didn't grow up in like the forest and like
he's a country boy, but I kind of got my country guy. But okay, you did bring some. I think a guy that's crafty, a guy that maybe he's, and I'm going with kind of your line of there, Mick, was Devontae Smith.
Ooh.
I mean, just when you
that was my gut feeling. Then
he's like, I could see him doing so many different things because he's such a technician at what he does when he runs routes. They're so precise and they're so crisp. And to get him to basically incorporate that into helping rebuild the civilization that we're working on, the foundation of it, whether it's building and understanding exactly where this needs to go and where this step is and with this cut based on this coverage. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, like, and I work with these guys, but I'm a fan of certain players that we have.
Of course.
And I mean, Devontae is he's one of those guys. We have a phrase, he's a dog. He's a guy that's going to throw his face around there when he's blocking, right? He's going to run amazing around. For crying out loud, he just helped Sherman retire. Did y'all read that piece? Right? I mean, if he decided, oh, you know what? After covering Devontae Smith, I think I'm calling him. My God. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I'm even more into Devontae Smith now. Take that with him. So
great. So
that's my three.
We've got your three. So we've got Fletcher Cox because he's a hunter. He's going to help you survive. You've got Harry Roseman because he's the brain of the operation. He's going to make sure everyone's taken care of and everything's moving forward. And then you're bringing up Devontae Smith because he's such a precise technician. He's an intelligent guy. And you feel like if it's going to happen, he's going to make sure it's happened exactly how it should happen, how you need it to happen. So that's a great trio. I mean, I definitely didn't have those three down when I created this game. I thought, I wonder what coach is going to go for. I was worried that I was going to pick Jalen Hurts and take that off the board for everyone. But before we move on to the running back questions, Liam, I think we're going to touch on yours and Mix if you've got your three.
I was hoping we were going to get a go.
I think you were typing yours down. So Liam, we're going to go to you then. Okay,
just quickly.
Who would you pick if on the same level? I can see this is going to be hilarious. So let's go.
No, it's not. It's just I was hoping you were going to get a Mick first because I was doing my research on the side.
Okay, we'll go. Okay, Mick, if yours are ready,
no.
Whichever one.
I'll go off the cuff unless you're ready, Mick.
I thought it too whilst we were talking to
Okay, go. You go.
I wasn't listening or anything, but I was just like, he's making some good points here, but I think I've got a couple of guys that I really like. I'm going to start off with with Nakobe Dean.
Ooh,
I think
yeah,
Nakobe
okay.
Dean is, well, we already know he was the captain of the best Georgia defense that college football has seen in a long time. And he's got such a high IQ. He's a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
I am also a mechanical engineer. And those guys are the cream of the crop, let me tell you. So this guy can manufacture pretty much anything you really want because he's got the know-how and he's got the leadership skills to go along with it. So not only, he's got the mechanical smarts, but he's also got the leadership abilities, and he's going to prove that on the field this coming year, this coming season, when he's sitting in that mic position in the centre of our defence, calling the plays with the green dot on his helmet. I can't wait for some Nakobe Dean this season, so I will take him to rebuild my civilization. First off. Secondly, I'm thinking Dallas Goedert, because he is an animal. Dallas Goedert. And he can shoot a Nerf gun.
Do you really want an animal when you're rebuilding Civilization, though, Mick?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say about Dallas Goedert as well is, like, do you want everyone to have no hair, like, for the rest of life in a lineage? Maybe you get Dallas Goedert in there.
I don't think we're talking about reproduction.
I'm going reproduction. Are we not going that deep?
No, I think I need to
now
have
taking a turn in building Civilization.
In an organisation and a sports team that predominantly male, I don't think reproduction was ever going to be on the table, Liam. But I like where your head's at.
Like where your head's at. Yeah.
So what's your third one then, Mick?
My third one I hadn't really thought through completely, but I think I'm going to go with James Bradbury. I think, again, another guy who's got a really sensible head. He's cool, calm, collected. A lot of things have been said and done since last season, how the Super Bowl ended, all that stuff. He's been hazed, and he doesn't rise to any of it because he's so cool, calm, and that's the kind of guy that you need on your side. And I love a bit of James Bradbury, so that's my third pick.
I love how this game has brought out some really varying different opinions, and that's exactly what I wanted to. So now I'm looking forward to the craziness that is going to be Liam's three people, and I'm worried where this is going to go a little bit, but go ahead, Liam.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really liked Coach's three picks: Fletcher Cox, Harry Roseman, and Devontae Smith. You need a hunter and gatherer, and you need someone who has some, not street smart, but like country smarts. And I mentioned him a couple of times already when Jemal was speaking. And he's a big guy, he's a strong guy. Feel like he knows what he's doing. So I'm going to go down a similar trajectory with Coach, and I'm going to take Landon Dickerson to be my hunter and gatherer of resources. And I'm not just talking food here. I'm talking wood resources, rock resources to build, building materials. This guy can fell trees with a blow of his breath. Like, give me Landon Dickerson as my hunter-gatherer resources to make sure we're okay.
I think he could make a hell of a moonshine just by looking at him. I feel like he could.
And I'm Irish, so I do like and need a drink. So yeah, that's also a high tick for me. Maybe even more important than the meat, actually. So yeah, give me Landon Dickerson. Give me Landon Dickerson. Oh, this is tough.
It's not meant to be. It's meant to be. Go with your gut. No one's going to hold you to this. This is going to be a topic of discussion, hopefully, within our fan base. We'll put it out to the fan base on Twitter and in the WhatsApp groups, get other people's three people. But I don't think Civilization, by the way, Liam, isn't actually going to fall. Like, we don't need you to reveal
Are you
it.
sure?
So this is not. We're not going to hold you to account on this one. So
Are you positive?
Well,
I feel like there's a lot of pressure on
I'm pretty sure in this context we're fine.
All right, okay. I'm going to go with a rookie. I'm going to go with a rookie who I think is going to be a generational talent at his position for the next, his whole career, and hopefully his whole career is at the Eagles. He's an intelligent guy. He's come across very intellectual and calm and reserved. And when Landon Dickerson is felling trees, he can probably catch up with any gazelles to try and take them down with his bare hands. And I'm going to go with Nolan Smith as my Swiss Army knife. I reckon he can help out with leadership. I reckon he can help out with communities and calmness. And I think people will look up to him, even though he's so young. I think people are going to look up to him pretty quickly within the Eagles organization. He's an intelligent man, and he's also, I feel like he could just turn his hand to anything. 6'2", 22 years of age. Give me Nolan Smith. Give me Nolan Smith.
I was just closely watching Coach's reaction, trying not to give anything away, because he's obviously met the guy, and I was looking for the nod of approval. Like, yeah, this guy, he's not giving anything away right now.
If they're building Civilization and I'm building Civilization, we're going to have a war at some point.
Yeah,
so I don't
exactly,
know. This is a battle. My 3 versus their 3. I mean, what's going on?
I think we've all got. I mean, I haven't given my third. I picked Jalen Hurts.
Hang on, I haven't picked my third yet.
Have you not? Sorry,
I've only got Dickerson and Smith. If I only get 2 out of 3, I'm never going to win the war against Coach.
I thought you had. I'm sorry. Carry on.
I'm going to go Landon Dickerson. I'm going to go Nolan Smith, and I'm going to go Jason Kelsey. I'm going to go Jason Kelsey just as a pure leader and as someone who is going to set the tone for my Civilization moving forward across the board. Incredibly intelligent man. You've seen how quickly he's taken to broadcasting, and it's now like the most popular podcast in the world. Like certainly in the sports world, and definitely within the NFL. Coach has already mentioned one of the most intelligent football players, not just in the Eagles organization, but in the league. I don't think I'm ever going to go wrong from a culture perspective, from a leadership perspective, from a tone setting perspective, that whatever he turns his hand to, give me Jason Kelsey, give me Nolan Smith, and give me Landon Dickerson as my 3 to rebuild Civilization.
Fantastic. Well, I won't deliberate much more. I think my third was going to be Jason Kelsey, and I can't even think of a reason why. I just love the guy, and I think I want him near me. If Civilization's gone kaput and there's 3 of us around, I want some guy who's going to sing me a lullaby to sleep, make me feel better at night. I want a guy who's going to just make me feel good and make me feel safe at night. And who's going to make who better than Jason Kelsey with his big beard? I'm sure he'll give you a hug at night. I think you'll feel nice, warm by the fire. And we're not going to eat because I've got no hunter-gatherers. So we'll probably die off pretty quickly. But
it's going to be a great time.
I'm pretty sure we'll have a great 3 days while it lasts.
Should we tell Coach my faux pas about Jason Kelsey?
Oh, what, you didn't think that she got the contract?
Yeah, so basically, Coach, I love Jason Kelsey.
That's the reaction.
With every fiber of my being. And like basically we got some feedback that I was a little bit too positive on podcast, and I needed to throw out, a couple of little, things in there. And I kind of believed at the time, and I'm not going to back away from my thought process, but you're going to cringe when I tell you this. But basically, I made a call when Kelsey's contract was renewed that I felt like to run it back with the team that maybe didn't necessarily need a 14 million, maybe could have taken a couple of million less, and that could have been spread out amongst other investments from the team. Wasn't saying he shouldn't have come back. Love him to pieces. I can see your face already. But I have to be honest. I can't hide. I can't hide behind what I said. Yeah. And what's not so hilarious for me is Jason Kelsey watched the clip on Twitter. So any chance I've ever had of meeting my idol, Jason Kelsey, is now evaporating to nothingness.
Thanks, Liam.
Yeah.
I don't think Coach is going to turn around and give you and help you out on this situation either.
When you see him, tell him I said sorry.
You put it out there and you did it on a podcast. It never goes away. That's the difference about today. You said it.
Game over. It's game over.
We got tape. We got film. We know it.
I love it. Go on, Phil. We done?
No, that was the end of it. Thanks for being a good sport, Coach. I think you played the game perfectly there. I'm definitely picking your team over the other 3 teams. Mine was just a joke, honestly. So we'll pass back over. I think we've got some running back specific questions now from Liam.
Yeah, again, thanks to you both for putting these questions together, because they really are fantastic. And Coach, should we we'll dive straight into them, shall we?
Let's go. Let's talk some ball.
Let's go. All right. So obviously just had the draft, but not just had the draft. It's been a while ago now. But first time we got to chat to you since the draft. I want to talk to you about the scouting process here. I'm not necessarily talking just about the scouting process in the draft or for rookies. That's part of it, but also when you're looking at your running back room, when Bobby goes and when Miles Sanders is leaving the organization, and you know you need to strengthen, let's say, maybe not like directly replace. What's the scouting process when you're looking at guys like Rashard Penny, guys like Swift, who have huge upside, like crazy upside when they're fit and healthy, versus the current guys you have in the locker room with Kenny G, playoff Kenny, as we called him, as when he was going through the playoffs. I think it coined a phrase that Mick coined. And the rookies that perhaps I'm sure we did look at a few rookies in the draft. But what's the process you're going through when you're looking for these guys, when you're trying to build that room? Because there was a quote I think you made last year around durability, and that was, if you have really one good back, chances are you're not going to finish with really one good back. So you need depth is extremely important, backs and also the O-line, which is really relevant now considering the room we have, right? So it's a very long-winded question, I apologize, but what's your process when you're looking at rebuilding that running back room and you're scouting all these individuals?
It's really kind of a two-part. You've got your free agents, right? Those are your guys that are in the NFL that either their contracts are up or either they're unrestricted or restricted free agents, those type of things. So you've got kind of your current NFL players to evaluate as well. So you go through that, to the guys, there's going to be guys that are still under contract, so you don't waste any time with those. And you really kind of look at that. In that group could really be guys in your own room as well. So you may have a player that's becoming a free agent, aka Boston Scott. He was up. He was a free agent this year. We were fortunate enough to sign him back. But so you have that piece of it. And then you have the draft, obviously. And you've got these college players. Now, none of them have played in the NFL. So it's really kind of how do you rate this player as a little bit more of a projection as opposed to, well, I can turn on this guy's last game in the NFL, and this is what he looks like playing in the NFL. So it's really a little bit of you've got a projection. And then with those other guys, really you could be a projection too. I think there's a big piece of the backs that we have in our room that's a little bit of a projection when you look at the new additions that we added from free agency in Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift. So a couple of things, it's kind of twofold, and you're always looking in our scouting department. Personnel, they're always keeping their eye out. This guy's coming up, and you really, at the end of the day, try to build the room. And I talked about this before. I'm a firm believer that there's certain skills that your room as a running back room has to have, right? There has to be a short yardage runner. There has to be a third down protector. There has to be a third down route runner. There has to be a first and second down runner, right? Just some basic things that need. Now you can get a combination of that through multiple players. Some, and this is just my personal opinion. The days of an every down back don't exist. That's just my personal. There's not a guy. The league is too fast. It's too physical, and the season is too long for one person in the running back position to carry the load of everything. To be the first and second down runner, be the protector when they're bringing blitzes, running routes on the third down. It you
look at C-Mac, right? Christian McCaffrey, like probably the best example of what that is. But the injuries that have not ruined his career, curtailed the prime of his career in the middle. That's what you're alluding to here, right?
I'd agree. I mean, it's just, and you mentioned what I said, durability. It's that piece. It's like, there's a little bit of a factor. If we're saying, oh, well, he's not real durable. Well, maybe he hasn't been used correctly either. So it's, well, how do you maximize players? Well, ask them to do what they do best, right? Don't ask them to do what they're not very good at. And it's okay. Well, how do you find that happy medium? And obviously in a running back room, well, it's like, okay, well, let's put these guys in certain roles. If they can play multiple roles, great. But what's the thing they do the best? Yeah. And hopefully your room matches up that you have a guy that does all of those skill sets that you need the best. maybe one guy does 2 of them and another guy does 1 of them, however. I really think last year, just our backfield in our room, when you had Boston Scott and you had Kenny Gainwell and you had Miles Sanders, you saw 3 of those guys in all different situations come on and help us win games. And I think if you don't have those, if you didn't have Kenny and you didn't have Boston, well, Miles doesn't play the amount of games he did. Miles had the most durable year he had in his career. Didn't miss a game, played in all of them, rushed for 1,200 yards, in the Pro Bowl, all that stuff, right? And it's what he needed to do, and at that point. But I don't know if he does that if he doesn't have Kenny Gainwell taking third down reps and Boston Scott being able to come in and give him a breather. So it's tough, and that's what I'm always looking for in a room is like, do I have the pieces to accomplish the things that I need? And I firmly believe you look at Rashad Penny, right, and you look at what he's done with him. When you take just the games that he's played, healthy, just take that. Disregard the other stuff, obviously, but you take those games and you look at his average per carry, you look at his yards and his touchdown. Like, he's an explosive player. I remember him when he came out of college. A really good friend of mine was a quarterback coach at San Diego State, so I knew of Rashad before that. I went to his pro day, met with him, all that stuff. He was returning kickoffs for touchdowns in college, right? So potential. DeAndre Swift.
Were you a big part of that, Jemal? I'm just touching on that because you just talked about knowing him at college, knowing people there at his pro day. When you realized Penny was on the market and for a very decent deal, which it turned out to be for someone who you mentioned averages over 6 yards per carry when he's fit and healthy and runs the ball, and incredible when he's healthy. Did you have a part in that? Because I know. Yeah.
You do, and it's everybody, but it's not just one person. I mean, one person.
No, of course.
Obviously, Howie has the final say with guys, but I'm going to evaluate his tape. Offensive coordinator is going to evaluate the tape. Our head coach is going to evaluate the tape. The scout in that area is going to evaluate the tape. So you're going to have multiple evaluations on this guy, and everybody's going to say, okay, this is what I think. This is what I think. This is what I think. And Howie at the end of the day, okay, I'm taking all this information. And okay, this is what I think. And
did you ever bang down the door? You're like, Howie, we really need to get this guy. Like,
I mean, that's when if there's a player that you truly want, I mean, you stand on the table for it. You firmly believe that player can help you, then you do that, right?
Nice.
And it's both ways. If you firmly believe this is not the guy, then you have to do that. And that's staying true. And that's how, as an organization, you can work on making sure you're getting really good players and talent. And it's the same free agency and the draft. The draft is obviously a little bit bigger process, but it goes in. I'm going to speak my piece on every running back that I'm asked to evaluate. The scout is going to speak his piece on every back, and you're going to have different minds.
What's that like? What's that like, Coach? Like, because you're giving such great insight in what it's like to be a positional coach, assistant head coach within a team. When you're talking about drafting and scouting, like, I have like zero experience, and I'm sure a lot of UK fans listening in will have way less experience of what that dynamic is like. Like, what's the dynamic like between? You don't need to talk about people or anything like that, but just in general, like scouting, people coming to you with scouting reports versus what you know and what you've seen in your experience. Like, do you find like is there often loggerheads? Is there a lot of agreement? Like, is it a bit of both? Like, what's that dynamic like?
It can, I mean, a lot of you talk about the gamut of different things, because a certain guy may fall in love with a guy that he's watched and all that, but maybe he hasn't watched the same guys that you've watched, and you've watched a different tier. And in my group of guys, this guy's, he didn't rack and stack very high, but in his group, he didn't. So for me, it's you have to take everything that you know. So my experience as a running back coach, my evaluation, that there's certain things that when you go through and you watch, you're like, okay, yeah, I remember he's similar to so-and-so. That was a successful trait for him. And you look at it that way. And that's what I'll go through. I'm going to go through and watch a running back, every one of his carries that he's had, every one of his pass blocking attempts that he had, every one of his receptions or targets that he had. And I'm going to look and evaluate that. And I'm going to look at those 3 areas of his play. Because to me, as a back, it's running, it's protecting, it's catching. Those are the 3 things that we have to be good at. So what type of runner you are. The runner piece, they should be I mean, if I'm in the NFL and I'm evaluating a guy that's a running back, he better be able to run the football. Like, that to me should be like check. Now, degreeing level of, okay, this guy's phenomenal, this guy's good, this guy's okay, those type of things. But that piece should be good. The protection piece, and I think I even mentioned this last, the protection piece, that's the toughest for a college guy.
Yeah.
They don't, it's a different system. They aren't one-on-one pass protecting, picking up linebacker blitzes as often as you'll get in the NFL. And even in the NFL, it's a small number. So a limited number of clips. So it's a want to, can he and will he? I always say, is he a willing combatant? If he's going to throw his face in there and try, I can work with that. I can develop the talent on that. If he's shying away from it and you see him grimace a little bit,
I love a running back just getting the chip in there. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's some critical factors there that you kind of look at. So like a toughness piece, that's going to be the first thing that turns me off on a player. And that's why, he ducked out of bounds. He avoided contact. Because if he's making business decisions in college, he ain't got time for that.
What's he going to do in the NFL?
Yeah. It is, but it's different. Think about it. We could all watch a highlight tape or watch a full game of a player, and we may all walk away with differences. Oh, I like this and I like that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know. And it's different, and it's at the end of the day, it's our opinion. Like it's like, this is what I see, and the tape can tell different people different things, but it's still based on the tape. So it's a crazy problem. And here's the thing: if it was a science, like everybody be good at it. I mean, it'd be easy to just, okay, let me punch this into our equation. Okay, yeah, he's a good player. Let's draft him. It doesn't work that way. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with emotion. We're dealing with a lot of different things that determine whether a player is good or not. I mean, players that start out maybe not great end up being even better. You know, not to bring it up, but Jason Kelce early in his career probably wasn't thought very highly of. Well, fast forward 6 years now, he's always been playing.
Greatest center of all time.
He's like, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? But it's how many people saw that from that, and it's tough. And the process, I wish you would sit here and say, okay, this is what we do. This is what we do. It's different. Every class that comes out from the running back position is different.
Well, you're never going to improve if you don't, right? If you know,
exactly.
I look at what I do in my job, right? You know, if I went about like my bids to win contracts every week the same way as I did the last one, then I would stagnate after a few. You know, I'll probably send the listeners to sleep even talking about what I do. But
that's the same thing with us. You watch, I'm going to miss. Like I may have an opinion, like I don't see it. And then 3 years down the road, this guy's
Derrick Henry.
Like, I missed that. Well, what was it? And I'll go back. What was it that I didn't like? There was something stuck out to me. It was like, oh, this. And then you come and find out, well, no, his coaches were telling him not to do it. You know, there's just different things. So like, okay, let me make sure the next time I evaluate a guy that has something like this, let me dig a little bit deeper here. Let me make sure. And then vice versa. A guy that I was high on that nobody else liked, and then he's balling. Then I'm like, yeah, see, I told you. But that's the piece too. It's like, okay, well, look, this guy played out right. So there's the injury piece that you never can account for. But for me, it's always about, do I have the skill sets in my room that are required on Sundays? From the guys that I have active on the sideline, can we get accomplished everything we need to get accomplished at different degrees? I want them all to be here, but man goes down. Yeah, this guy can step into that role. It may be a step below that, but we can still kind of function and work, and he can still help us and do some things. So to me, it's all about how do you build a position group, and each position group has different needs. Every position coach is going to have critical factors that they're looking for in all their players, and kind of rack and stack that and come up with what they feel is okay. Yeah, this is a guy that I'd like to see. This is a guy that can help us. Let's try and draft him. Where? Oh, let's figure out where we at, what picture we are. Is he there? Those type of things. So it's for
banging down Howie's door to get Bijan Robinson in a pick 9 out of 10.
Well, it's exactly what you're saying. That's why I have such respect for Howie with what he does, because at the end of the day, he's taking all that information from his scouting department, from the coaching department, from analytics, everything, and he's putting that together and coming up with his basic plan with help from everyone of like, this is how we're going to do things.
Genius.
And he's a wizard. He's been doing great things around.
We should send you. There's a little meme. You watched Harry Potter when you were younger. I don't know if you watched Harry Potter. There's a meme which is, "You're a wizard, Howie," rather than Harry. We'll send you that. Mick, you got a question about DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, just going off of what you're saying, that we have a lot of guys and you guys in the room with all different various abilities and tool sets. But Swift in particular is a very good pass catching running back, and it's something that we haven't had a lot of in recent years with the Eagles. So how do you sort of help running backs in terms of developing in the passing game and as receivers rather than as running backs, and helping them with their running routes and things like that? Do you get involved directly in the sort of receiving game as well, or?
Absolutely. And I think that's the route tree for a running back can be two different things, right? We have our routes from the backfield. So those are different than receiver routes because the timing's different. Where we're leaving from, we have to avoid D linemen. So there's a whole side of being a pass catcher as a running back that generates from the backfield. Then the next piece is, okay, let's go empty. Let's empty the back out. He's at the line of scrimmage. Now he's outside receiver. He's the inside receiver playing the slot. Well, now he's in a true receiver world. And that's one of the things that I tell the guys too. If we're going to line up in a receiver spot, we're going to do receiver things. And I want us to be into that position where as a back, if I'm lined up outside as an outside receiver, I better be running the route as sharp and as crisp as the receivers are. And that's a big part. We'll do it in my room. We'll also send guys and work with the receiving core as well. So they get a little bit of both of that because it's different. My timing off a hitch route from empty is different than my timing on a choice route from the backfield. And it's just different. The picture's different. The coverage structure is different. The timing of it's different. So it's incorporating that for a player to be able to understand that. Then just the basic mechanics of that, right? It's like, how many steps am I taking? Where does my toe need to be? How do I plan as opposed to arc releasing from the backfield, full speed releasing from the outside receiver spot is different. So you get guys like that and you spend a little bit more time with those guys on their ball skills, on what they're doing with their route running, because you want them to be effective. I mean, we've kind of brought it up. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is a guy that's probably had that. Him, Alvin Kamara, have been a couple guys that run routes like receivers. And
Jemal Gibbs, who's coming into the league as a rookie.
Kind of out there, that's his plan. But that's a piece that you try to start to work is with these guys. Like how can we match up? Because for a defense, I mean, what are you gonna roll the safety down? Is now a safety because you're trying to help your linebacker not have to deal with covering this guy out of the backfield. So it's a big piece of that, and there's a part of it. And I think Kenny Gainwell does a really good job too. I think one of the biggest things that we have is like, okay, I love Kenny, I love DeAndre Swift, but do I want to throw the ball to A.J. Brown? Do I want to throw the ball to Devontae Smith? Do I want to throw the ball to Dallas Goedert?
I've been saying this so much.
The running back. So it's
so many options.
You have to, like, people, oh, well, he only had because we got A.J. Brown, we got all these other guys.
And Jalen's got like a split second decision they make as well. It's incredible.
So as we start trying to scheme all these things for the back, it's like, well, who are you taking those catches from?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, as a back, we're going to get our touches. We're going to get them in check down routes. We're going to get them in screens that we have to improve on, right? We're going to get them carrying the football. So, like, those are the things for us that we got to make sure is like, this guy has a skill set that can show up on the third down, can be very good and all that. But we're not where we've been now has not been, okay, we're going to isolate. We're going to try and force the ball to the back on this route. I don't think we have to do that. Like, we didn't have to do that last year. Right? We didn't have to throw the ball a bunch, right, out of the backfield. We did some with some check downs, and Kenny got enough receptions there, and everybody wants more. There's only so many snaps. So going back down at the beginning of the questions, DeAndre Swift does have that talent. He's shown that he can do that, but don't sleep on his running skills. I mean, he's shown he's got really good feet, can be very elusive and all that. I think we're looking at another scenario. Just DeAndre Swift had some durability stuff, just wasn't as healthy, missed some games and all that. I mean, he was basically a first-round pick. He was the 33rd pick of the draft when he came out. I liked him coming out when I evaluated him out of Georgia, so it was really good. So I look at it like we got 2 steals at running back. I mean,
I think a lot of Eagles. I mean, we certainly feel that as a podcast and as a fan group in the UK, and I know a lot of fans in the UK feel like it's a steal of running back, and I think a lot of people are really excited by the running back room because, I mean, Boston Scott could be a starting running back for some teams in the NFL, right? And he's arguably now running back 3-4 when you have Swift and Penny.
Well, hey, I'm not saying that.
I know you. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Yeah.
This is what's great is you talk about this training camp. Maybe that's a little bit why I'm kind of itching to get back.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
Look, these guys. I've got legitimately. We just talk about DeAndre Swift. Talk about Rashad Penny. We're talking about Boston Scott. We're talking about Kenny Gainwell. Don't forget about Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
So it's like those guys, and then Kennedy Brooks is another guy who's coming on and getting better. So it's like, well, who's it? Like, to me, this is exactly what you want in a room. Is like, there's competition. Nobody in that room is guaranteed anything right now. There's no number one, number two. That's going to play out with how they perform. So it's like this, to me, this is what competition is all about. I want to see who performs the best. You want to be the starter? Be the best guy in the room. All right. You want to be the best guy in the room. And again, the room that we have, and I think the personalities we have in the room is extremely important, because that could be kind of right. Because we're looking around, it's like, I want your job and he wants my job, and it's tough. But we have the type of personalities in that room that they're working, and this offseason was so great, getting those guys and understanding that, hey, look, and I told them, look, we're all in this together. Let's go and let's work and let's compete and let's see how we can get better as players. And they were helping each other and coaching each other and talking. I mean, so it was a good environment for that. Now, I'm sure there's a little bit of what you want. I mean, coming on, we want the best running back room we can possibly get. We got 5 guys that are going to compete for the starting job, and then compete for the number 2, then compete for the number 3. And it may change throughout the year. So for me, it's an exciting time to just see. Everybody's got great tape. You want to highlight tape of the guys that are in the room? It's a pretty dang good tape.
That's some sexual tape right there.
I'm talking college. I'm talking NFL. So they know. They sit next to him and they say, "Oh man, he balled out. No, he balls out." Gotta work.
You're a kid at Christmas already.
Oh,
that's what you're saying.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Just spoiled.
Based on that, obviously, this is a bit of an ad hoc question, guys, but obviously the running back room last season was Miles Sanders, debatable RB1, and he's the main guy, and everyone else is coming in to sort of support him. Obviously, going into the season, we're going into this season now with a luxury of options, but no clear RB1. Is your job easier this season, or was it easier last season, kind of knowing he's the guy, I've just got to build around him, or is it kind of, I've got so many options, this is going to be so easy?
Good question.
Well, I think it's never easy, no matter whether it's set up, because here's the thing. When you go into a season, okay, he's my number 1, but how do you know that, right? You're making a decision. Performance is the only true measure of ability. I say that all the time. Performance is the only true measure of ability. So whether you go into a season with him being your 1, is he going to play like a 1? Is he going to be that guy that you need to get the yards and be explosive? You can think he can, or you hope he can, right? But you never know going into it. So every single day you're preparing to be able to get to a game and do whatever needs to be done to help win the game. We had Miles was our guy. He was our starter, but Miles had been hurt in the past. We didn't know. What if Miles got dinged up week 2? And
we talked about it in the last podcast. Even last year, you weren't saying Miles Sanders was going in as RB1. You were bigging up Miles. You were hoping he had a great season, but you talked about durability so much, and I think that's obviously so key, as you're saying.
Yeah, it's the same this year. Right now, I walk in and there's I got 5 guys who could be the 1. I think I kind of like that.
You want a 6th? I can come over and try out, coach.
7.
Yeah.
I was a lot quicker about 9 years ago.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm like,
it's like, yeah.
I mean,
So,
coach said that you valued. Yeah, you said that you value people sort of sticking their head in when it matters, like, and that's what your biggest compliment of Kenny G last season was. Has he fulfilled that role? Has he kind of like done it and more. So going into the season, you're like, you want more from him?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is it. You're either getting better or you're getting worse.
Yeah.
There is no staying the same. They're not in this league. And I think Kenny showed last year he was able to stick his face in there protection-wise and be physical. He showed one thing people don't always understand about Kenny. One of the things that we did a bunch was we ran the ball on 3rd and mediums and 3rd and 5. It wasn't just a passing down because we were going to probably go for it on 4th down. So Kenny was in there for a lot of 3rd downs and got carries. And he had, I think, the Giants game, he had like a 3rd and 12 that he converted for a 1st down on a carry.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. Like he did something. And those are the pieces. I know you brought up the playoff Kenny, but Kenny got in there 2 minutes kind of later in the game and was rolling. And that's kind of what you wanted. Miles had been in early, scored 2 touchdowns. Kenny was able to come in and kind of finish things off. So that was just kind of how it played out. It had nothing to do with the playoffs. It's always we were winning pretty good too. So we were running the ball a lot more. And it's like, hey, I got the starters here. Kenny's ball. Let Kenny kind of keep going.
Do you not think players do? It's like, so you said it's nothing to do with the playoffs. And I find that a really interesting point you make, because there's got to be there's got to be some players.
Absolutely.
You look at Jalen. I'm not talking about running backs here, but you look at Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl, right? One of the best Super Bowl performances we've seen for a quarterback in like decades, and he lost. Right? The mind boggles. Like, I have no doubt Jalen Hurts is going to win multiple Super Bowls during his career. Zero doubt. Do you find there are some players in the running back position, not now that you're coaching or in the past, not naming anyone whatsoever, and others who don't want it so much?
No, and kind of really the comment I was mentioning about with Kenny is it wasn't the playoff. That was the game, and that was the way the game had played out. Whether that had been week 15 or that had been the first round of the playoffs, just how it played off with Kenny coming in, and it just the way the games were. I mean, it wasn't our playoff run we weren't 1-score games and tight games and all that. So it was a little bit different, which allowed Kenny to take some of that. But yeah, if your blood doesn't get a little bit more boiled up for the playoffs, something's wrong with you, because the environment's going to be different. The vibe's going to be different. It's win or go home now, right? Regular season, you got a chance. Oh, okay, well, you get a chance to come back. 1 loss, you aren't done. But in the playoffs, that's it. So playoff football is different. And again, I think every player sees that. If you ask the player, hey, what would you rather play in, the regular season or the playoffs? You're not going to get anybody that says the regular season they want playoffs, because that's it. You win championships by winning playoff games. Regular season helps you get there, but the playoffs, think about some of the greatest games in the history of the Eagles, any franchise for that matter. So much of it is based around what they did in a playoff game or in a Super Bowl. Brandon Graham's license plate is strip sack.
Yeah, right? Baby.
Right. It's one of those are the games. So no, when you talk playoff football, it's different. And I speak from 2 years of experience. I've only been to the playoffs twice as a coach, and that was our first year with the Eagles and then this last run. So I've been on a lot of
You're gonna have many more, coach.
teams that have been there. So when you get to the playoffs, it is unlike anything there is, and especially at the Link. It's crazy.
I was there obviously for the Packers game when I met you, and I was there for the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. And you mentioned it earlier. I have never been in such an electric environment in my entire life. And you said, you want that more. I fully believe you will. Sorry, Phil, go ahead.
No, it's just going to pivot on to the next question. But yeah, I'm surprised you didn't mention that you were at the NFC Championship game right at the start when Coach mentioned it, because, and the dancing. Coach, if you haven't seen the dancing,
have you seen it? Have you seen the videos of me dancing on Broad Street?
Yes,
yeah. Oh dear.
But just to pivot off that one, and touch a bit more on Jalen Hurts and the quarterback side of the running game. How much involvement and how key are you in terms of, does he come to you? Does he go like, I want to work on my running game, and he comes to you for the coaching? Or do you get asked to come in and go, right, we're going to, obviously Jalen's a runner, so we need you to come in and work with him. Like, how does that sort of relationship work with you and him?
No, it's obviously we get together the running backs and the quarterbacks because there's so much ball handling that we do when you talk about the read zone game, the option game, and all that. So that has to be on point. And so we spend a lot of time first parts of practice working on our ball handling, our meshes, all that good stuff. So that's the extent of it. And I've been asked this question before, but last year, Brian Johnson is a phenomenal coach. I mean, obviously he's been promoted to offensive coordinator. I've actually coached when he was a player on a sideline against him when he was playing at Utah. So you want to talk, but that's what he's done. He was a spread run quarterback. So Jalen has one of the best guys right there at his disposal that has played the position he plays, has run the football from that position. Because you can say we want a quarterback run is different than a running back run.
Of course it is.
Things are different. It plays out differently. The look is different. The timing is different.
Would you say it's straighter line, Coach? Would you say it's like specifically when you look at Jalen, like people have always commented on Jalen, kind of like he did a lot more juking this year, just gone, but a lot of straight line.
Oh, Jalen has snapped some ankles, man.
He did this year. I think I'm thinking more the previous season than this season. But
for him, it just depends on the play because with the quarterback, he can have inside tackle box runs, he can have outside edge runs, right? The same thing that a back has. But when you just talk about the timing of it, it's different. It's different for a quarterback, and in a lot of times he's coming off a mesh and he's making a read to when he's got the ball in his hands. Or if it's a direct run for the quarterback where he's running, it's just set up differently. So the perspective is a little bit different. Now, some of the skills of making a guy miss, juking, all that good stuff, some of that's a little bit of innate with him. Like he's got a little bit of it. There's backs that can shake.
Like me.
Like you. Like I remember your highlight tape is unbelievable. Just unbelievable. But no, and it's I have been asked that question before. We get involved, and when we're going through mesh into that, but no, Jalen's his quarterback coach now coordinator is really good. I mean, those guys. So when we meet together and have certain discussions about things, we get it done. But it's not like, oh, hey, Jalen, you're meeting with the running backs today.
It's not like a day today.
No, he's in his room, and we'll get together with the backs, and he'll work his run, and we'll set up the reach for him as well.
That's awesome.
But no, he's in the quarterback room, and like I said, he did a great job this year throwing the football as well as running the football.
Here. You mentioned you get involved. You throwing some jukes out there on the pitch, Coach?
Oh, I can shake them up now. You got a little bit. You ask the guys. Sometimes I'll be demonstrating for them, and they be
that's
like,
what I mean. Wow, we got a bit of that going on in the preseason.
When he doesn't have the boxing gloves on,
Yeah, that's it. That's my workout. See if I can knock any boys out.
It's all about the ball security, man.
I love that. My laptop's closed down, guys. So one of you two go to the next question.
Mick, you take it away. I've taken enough airtime.
Oh, okay.
Some more Scottish dulcet tones in there, Mick.
Of course, but the more whiskey I consume, the harder I am to understand. Or I try to enunciate more.
Let's go. Question six.
I do apologise, Coach. So with that in mind, what specific techniques and drills do you emphasise to help running backs improve their ball security? We're just talking about, you're out there with the boxing gloves. We've all seen it. We've all seen the footage. You're jabbing at the at the running backs, but I know there's a massive emphasis within the building. You've got the signs all over the NovaCare.
Yeah.
Ball security being one of the top priorities for the team, and it was one of the things we did best. Like Jalen Hurts, ball security is like unparalleled across the league, and the running backs also have been doing very well with their ball security. So how have you been training that to the team?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of one of my roles is kind of the ball security piece of it, with the presentation that I give weekly on that, and then the way we do our drills. So we do 2 drills every week specifically for that. Now for the running backs, we do it every day. Like it's a part of what our individual period is. But a lot of it is coming up with, okay, let's identify some of the problems that we may have. So we've simplified how we carry a football. to some basic concepts. And it's like how we want to hold it, how we want to do it. And I always say you're going to be good at what you emphasize. And how do you emphasize that? So we are obsessive about it. I'm still in that phrase from Nick. Nick is, and it starts there. I've been the ball security guy at other places, but when it starts with the head coach and the head coach preaches it and he talks about it and he fixes it in practice, all that, when the message starts at the top, it doesn't take long to understand, okay, this is something that we have to be good at. We can't just be okay at, right? So starts with there, and then it just our emphasis throughout the building. You mentioned the posters, but then even the drill work. I mean, we've come up with drills based on something that we learned. We talk about guys getting up off the ground and then the ball coming out. That was a big thing that happened to us that we took. And so we took an actual occurrence in a game and developed a drill to help prevent that. And to me, that it's kind of goes back to my military days a little bit too. It's like a drill has to be authentic. Like it has to be. We're not going to train to do something that doesn't really happen in a game, right? And then it's like, okay, it happens in a game. Well, how do you drill it to make it as realistic as possible? So I always go back to when I was in the military and stationed at Little Rock Air Force Base in Arkansas. That's the home of the C-130, and the C-130 is a big, huge cargo plane with propellers and all that. And they train every pilot there. Well, in that schoolhouse, they had a simulator. Right. And it was a full range of motion. And the simulator was so realistic that pilots could get airsick in the simulator. And that's without leaving the ground. So that's just how my mind thinks. So it's like, okay, if I'm going to create a drill that's going to basically try and help somebody in a game-like situation, it has to be realistic. How can I make it as real as possible? Now, I can't hit them. We can't, full on contact with pads is different. Now I can get a right hook with them, but it's like, so we kind of incorporate those drills and we do that. And it's not just me, it's our entire offensive staff. It's like, hey, what if we did this? And we start to work some drills. I think there was some new drills that we put on tape this off season, incorporating multiple pieces of, hey, this is going to have a catch plus an outside arm plus a blocking piece, where we're trying to maximize how much fundamentals we could teach in one drill and get a bunch of things for different people. And it was realistic. It was based on that. We could take a clip from game, right, and show this is why we're doing this drill. And it matched and mirrored. So that's a part. It's always that. And it's trying to come up with new ways, creative ways of how do you do it. Whether we use a thing called a fumble pro, where it's a ball. You've probably seen it's a ball on a string, but it creates a lot of force and yanks the ball out their arm. We've got, punch sticks where we got a big PVC pipe with a punching glove because
I've got a new one for you, Coach. I've got a new one for you, right? So you're gonna. This is so stupid, right?
Oh, we know.
Right. So I'm thinking here, lots of different moving parts, making their heads a bit frazzled. You need to create a mini car wash in the NovaCare Center. And then, you just send the player through with the NFL ball, and they get hit and they get smacked with washing lines and all sorts of stuff.
He'll be clean for sure when he comes out of the side.
If they come out 30 of a run, they don't need to wash their clothes. You took my punchline, Phil. All right.
We got to get the fans so that it dries them as they finish.
Dries them as they come through.
You say that. We actually do a drill similar to that called the gauntlet.
There you go.
We have a blaster with these arms, and they have to run through it. We're punching at them, and so very cool. Maybe we add the water element. We need to add the washing
bit of water, and you could call it the water boy drill.
Simulates the rain, doesn't it? So
I'm here all week.
The Philadelphia weather.
You bring that up. That is,
that's
water
a very good point.
We will use that. We'll have some of our drills, especially if there's a chance that we'll play in rain. We'll start, and I have a huge bucket of water with the old, most beat-up footballs we can have, and we're dunking the balls and then making them do that ball security drill with that type of ball. Nice. So, again, it just goes back to how can we simulate something that happens in the live game in a practice setting efficiently enough to where it actually helps them and benefits them for when they face that situation in a game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like that Jaguars game last year, that was some crazy weather, wasn't it? It was just run the ball because you couldn't really throw it, and the running backs had a time. And
that was another game that when you look at the number of times they turned the ball over versus us, that was huge. I mean, we were on a pretty good tear the first 7 games of the season with not turning the ball over. So a big part of that. And it is the biggest determination between winning and losing has been turnover margin. That's takeaways and giveaways, right? Defensively. And those are the two pieces that we focus on tremendously.
Sirianni preaches that so much, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Like I said, it starts at the top. That's what makes it kind of cool is like I get a full presentation time to present things of, showing teams what not to do, those clips, and then showing us doing good things and even learning off of when we have mistakes. And it's sometimes the meetings aren't great and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, we got to watch the fumble that really hurt us in this game. And let's see what we did. Let's analyze why this happened. And that's what can we do to fix it to make sure it doesn't happen. So no, that piece is great. And it's great to have a head coach that firmly believes that as well. And it just helps everybody to understand that we can handle those two things, taking the ball away from them and not giving it to them. We got a chance to win a lot of football games, and we did last year.
All right, Coach, you've had you for an hour and 40 minutes already. So we're going to do a few questions left, and we're going to go quick fire at you.
Okay. All right.
Or Phil, do you want to ask a question first before we do some quick fire questions?
Yeah, if that's okay. A little bit of a flex from me. I've got an inside source in the Panthers organization.
Here we go.
And I was recently told that when Miles Sanders had an interview within the organization, that he specifically asked for no questions regarding the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, is that because he's sort of specifically disappointed about his exit from the Eagles, or is that more about where his focus as a player, sort of going to a new team, going, do you know what, that's the past, that's done, that's the door's closed on that. I'm here in Carolina now, and I want to focus on my new team. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I can't speak for Miles. I'm not sure, but it's kind of like how I started this conversation. This may be the last time I talk about last year's Super Bowl, right? It's that piece, and I think for him, it's probably good because he'll spend all day talking about what happened last year and Eagles and all that. And it's like, hey, at some point you got to move on to the next. And I think everyone knew, and I think he made it clear he would have liked to still been an Eagle, would have liked to been there, but it just wasn't in the cards. But and I tell you, he was able to have a great year, and fortunately, even in this running back market, was
he
able
got
to
paid.
Get a decent, a decent contract. So that is him, man. And I think anytime a former player talks about his old team, it could go one or two ways. So if you just kind of
normally only goes one way, and it's not like it's normally not good. Like, I can't. I'm on the side of the latter part of what you said, Phil, and that is, he had a great time as he was a huge Miles Sanders fan. Had his jersey. One of the first running backs that I've been an Eagles fan who had drafted, who I watched from the start through to the end. I've been an Eagles fan way before Miles, a few years before Miles was drafted, but I followed his career quite closely.
Penn State.
Yeah, a Penn State boy as well. And I still haven't fully decided my college team yet, Nick. There's a chance.
That's another podcast.
There's a chance. Notre Dame is still hanging there. Fighting Irish. I'm Irish after all. We'll see. But I feel like he's done the right thing. If that is what you've heard, Phil, I think that's the right thing to do, because anytime I see any players really talking about anything that's happened in the past, I'm not even talking about their old team. I mean, look at the 49ers and the shitstorm they've made themselves look like this year, with all the complaining and moaning and whining about everything they could have done. I feel like anyone who goes back and talks about stuff in the past, it's never good unless you finished your career and you're reminiscing on good times that happened on the football field. Be a professional, move on, take it in your stride, and look forward to the next thing. I reckon that's what Miles has done.
Well, as Jalen says, flush it and move on.
Yeah. Exactly.
What would Jalen do? That's the WWG.
I need a T-shirt that says that.
Well, we've got our own line now. Nick, that's one of the designs for the new year.
Yeah, there you go. Our new T-shirt. Yeah, we got merch now, Coach.
Merch, big time.
Yeah, boy.
You won't even ask me to be on next year. You guys will be way too big for me.
Nah. You're a friend, man. You're a friend. First most and everything. All right, a couple of questions here. I think we've got to ask you this question. You've touched on it a little bit, and it's been quite interesting to hear your take on a running back room. And there's not a 3-down running back, really. That's kind of dead in the NFL. What's your take? I said it in the agenda. What's your take on the current media fury that's going on at the moment? I mean, you can't look at an NFL beat writer's news feed, no matter where they are in the world, and I'm not retweeting a running back who's done an eye emoji or has made a comment about it. And you talked about, Miles. I think he's the highest paid. He's got the most guaranteed money of any starting running back in the year coming. Miles Sanders does, specifically for the year coming. I believe that's correct. What's your overall thoughts on it? Because everything I'm hearing from you, and I'm not putting words in your mouth whatsoever, everything I'm hearing from you is you believe in a running back by committee, not just because of the different skill sets you need within a running back room, but also the durability angle as well. Is that a big reason why there's been a bit of a drive down in singular big player contracts, like you get at your defensive tackle and your defensive end and your offensive tackle and your quarterback and your wide receivers and your cornerbacks to maybe a slightly lesser extent?
Yeah, it's a crazy time for the running back position. It's kind of been projecting this way a little bit for a while, but this year is probably different than most, because usually no first round draft pick running backs and no big contract. Well, yeah, it was kind of the draft actually for backs was pretty good. You had a guy go ninth, and then the off-season contracts weren't as great. You got all these franchise tags going on into some of these backs. So
Lowe's yesterday, right?
Yeah. So it kind of ended that point. But I don't know. I think part of it is because guys have been cheap and made big plays. I mean, I know Eckler is probably one of the guys, and I just bring up that name because, again, he was a late round guy and all that stuff. I mean, you look at Boston Scott, he is a late round guy and all that. So I don't know. And so many teams, the game has changed a little bit. You don't have two backs in a game. You're not playing a fullback run game. You've got more spread. You've got more athletic quarterbacks that are running a little bit more throughout the league, because really at some point the NFL kind of mirrors what's going on in college, because those are the players we get and kind of fill our rosters with. So you've seen more of the RPO. You've seen more of the read options. So you've seen the numbers go down for backs a little bit in that case, to where it's like, okay, I don't know. And I'm a running back coach, so I want running backs to get paid as much.
Well, this is what I mean, right? It's catch-22 for you, right? Because you're talking to us as a friend, but also as a running back coach and a guy who coaches and speaks to running back all day. You got friends in the running back committee. You got running back coaches. You got running back old players. You play with the players now, and it must be difficult for you in that, just even thinking, not even speaking to anyone else, but just kind of thinking about it in your own mind, because you want running back to be this prominent, amazing position. You want running back guys to get paid, but in the same breath, you're preaching the need for multi skill sets, and the clear and obvious notion that running backs who run the ball every down are going to get hurt when they're running into 340-pound defensive tackles all the time, right?
See, if you ask me, that's a bigger portion of why maybe the players could be getting paid a little bit more as running backs, because of what they
risk.
But it's not that. So it's you got a guy, and you said it, playing the running back position. I'm not saying this because I played it in college or coach it. There's not many more physical positions than the running back. I think when you look at the average career life of a running back, why is it smaller than most other positions? Well, because of what we do day in and day out, right? A 370-pound guy falling on top of you with all his weight is a major collision. Right. And it happens. So we're going to block, we're going to tackle, we're going to, get tackle, all this stuff. And it's a very physical position. And I firmly don't believe that a guy can do that for 90 plays a game for 17 weeks and come out. The body's not built that way. Right. And so it's okay. Well, now give me 2 or 3. And when at the end of the day, I think my job is to make sure that the running back room can help the team win in any way they're asked. Right. And if that means I got one guy that's making a huge amount of money, guaranteed, long contract, and then the other guys I have got to be on rookie deals because that's the only way we could afford any other guys in that room, it's a dangerous situation for me, because if that guy gets hurt, then I'm stuck. Whereas, and there might be running backs that hate me for this, but I'm like, I want I want like what I have now. I got 5 guys in the room that have a chance to play, and it's not like they're on huge contracts. Now, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you making a mill, you can live okay. Is that really deserving of the position you play? Maybe not. Yeah. Right? Maybe not. And it's like the same, Miles had an opportunity to go and do that, but he had to have a really good year, or else that contract doesn't show up for him.
Yeah, and he did. Yeah.
And so to me, it's tough. It's really a tough piece. We want to be that, but just the offenses have changed a little bit. And I hate it because really it diminishes a little bit of my role when this guy, he's coaching these guys here. But to me, at the end of the day, it's about winning games. And how can you do that? How can we control what we can control? Right, in the running
I wonder if it needs to be a little bit more like a depth cornerback room or a depth wide receiver room. Like, because the wide receiver market, I feel like it's looked at on a singular player basis historically, not now. We're talking about more of a room to be produced now. But if you're John Swift, if you're Rashard Penny, what's Zacchaeus being like paid this year? Is it like $3 million or something like that? Like, and that's the fourth. I don't know what it is, but I suppose what I'm trying to get at is, like, should it be looked at as more of a depth position like other positions are in the team? Because probably historically it's not really, is it?
I think so. When you think about it, really, as a running back, the majority of the time on the field, you got maybe 1 or 2 back systems still out there, but you've got 1 running back on the field. Mm-hmm. So in the running back room, to be 3 deep, you need 3 people. Sure. In the receiver room, when you talk about mainly most teams, 11 personnel is probably the most prevalent personnel grouping, meaning 1 running back, 3 receivers, 1 tight end. That's the kind of the basics for that. So same thing. If I got 3 receivers on the field and I want to be 3 deep at those positions, well, now I'm looking at 9 receivers. So it's the numbers of it and the plays and how they kind of go, because it's the number of reps for a running back, the number of reps for a tight end, the number of reps for receivers. I think some of that plays into it, right? It does. Yeah. I mean, quarterback, really, you got 1 guy, right? He's going to have the big contract, and then you get the backup guy. Well, backups probably make more than most running backs.
Unless you're the Tennessee Titans, in which they've got like 3 or 4 potential starting quarterbacks this year.
That's it. Well, like they say, if you got 3, you got none.
There you go. We'll put that out and at the Tennessee. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm joking.
But no, it is. It's a changing, and I think it's tough for you want to be, if you're the best at your position and you think you should be compensated accordingly, so be it. And it's just that's not where we're at. These young men, and they get an opportunity to, I guess, get as much money as they can, get the best situation they can, root for. And if it's not, I mean, you're seeing it. The guys aren't getting what they want, then it's always going to be the market. The market's going to always drive what it is. And as long as we have 5th round picks balling out and making Pro Bowls and doing that type of stuff, it's going to be harder for the position to have 1st round picks and big money contracts for all that. It's just most analytics people are looking at it. It's like it's not, the cost analysis for this isn't what it needs to be.
Isn't what it needs to be. Yeah. Coach, that's so insightful. And we had great fun last year. We've had great fun this year. But the insight you've given today on the dynamics of the running back position and the things you think about and the things that you guys do over and over again, it's hilarious, because about an hour ago you mentioned this is what I call Widow Week, or it might have been like an hour and a half ago. And then you went into all the things you were doing. I'm like, yeah, boy, that is definitely like Widow Week. I can see why Mrs. Singleton says that before you go. But I just wanted to say a big thank you from myself and from Mick and from Phil for joining us on this podcast again. You've been so gracious with your time. You're such a great human being. I know we've chatted a lot. We've met in person. Everything you do for the Eagles is incredible, but everything you do as a human being personally, and I know we all feel this is incredible. And we love you being in the Eagles organization. We love you being part of the UK, British and Irish Eagles when we get to chat to you. And we'll send you an email and a couple of Instagrams over the next few months, and see if we'll get that care package over to you. Don't you worry.
I was about to ask about that.
We need to deliver it by hand, Liam.
By hand? All right, well, I'm not sure my suitcase can take that much, but we'll probably deliver. We'll probably deliver some.
If you're not coming to November, I can't wait that long. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We'll get you a care package, and then we'll bring you a little something special in person as well, Coach. But listen, enjoy the last few days of your vacation. I know you're going back to work on Sunday. Enjoy the season. We'll get you again in the off season, hopefully with a Super Bowl ring on your finger and maybe a trip to Nottingham Forest Stadium while you're at it as well. But from me, thank you so much, and Mick and Phil. I know you guys feel the same, and we really appreciate you, man, and we really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.
I appreciate it. So and I'm not I don't really get superstitious about things, but the last time we'd had this conversation before the season, good things really happened. So
exactly,
you had me hook, line, and sinker from the get go. Like, all right, well, we got to make sure we do that podcast again.
This is it. This is it.
Spadaro likes that.
I appreciate you guys, just the connection and the fact that, like you mentioned, Liam, we had a chance to meet and just. It's kind of, there's a lot of negative things we see about social media throughout the time, but I really feel like this has been a great, just getting a chance to meet you guys, kind of engage a little bit on the podcast, talk, and, a little bit of my roots over there. So it makes it pretty exciting for me and pretty special that a NFL team that I get to work for over here has a following, and obviously you guys being fans of the program is pretty cool. So I'm thankful for that you even guys will even have me on to talk and rebuild civilizations, all this stuff together. But no, you guys are awesome. I really do enjoy this. I look forward to it every year.
That's amazing. And my mom,
kind words.
My mom, after she listened to the podcast last year, said how much of a nice guy you are. So I know she'll be looking forward to listening to Coach Singleton again on the podcast. So there you go, Mr. Neil. Coach, thanks so much. We'll let you go, and we'll speak to you soon, no doubt, and we'll hopefully see you in November.
All right, take care. Go Birds.
Go Birds, baby.
As always.